Most people are not tired of love. They're tired of inconsistency, mixed signals, chasing, overthinking. And after going through that cycle so many times, dating no longer becomes exciting. It just becomes uncertain and emotionally draining. And this is one of the hardest parts about modern dating. We all want and are craving that emotional closeness and connection with somebody. But we are told to act with emotional detachment. Nobody wants to seem like they are being vulnerable. Nobody wants to seem too much. No one wants to seem like they're being needy, like they're being clingy. And rather than being vulnerable, they might find it easier just to walk away or take themselves away from the situation. And in modern dating, this creates a dynamic where a relationship is all about performance and performing for somebody at the start instead of being authentic and finding a connection. And this results to so many people feeling anxious whilst dating. Not because they necessarily care too much, but because they don't know where they stand with people. Their mind is always trying to come up with answers to answer the inconsistency and the unknown to what this person is actually feeling. And what happens is we turn these into a personal story because our mind has no resolution, so we try and find a resolution by telling ourselves these stories that, maybe I was the problem, or maybe I texted too much, maybe I was seeming to be too needy. And this becomes exhausting because you're not trying to build the connection with them, you're not trying to enjoy dating them. You're thinking about every text, you're over-analysing everything, you're overthinking everything. And because of this, a relationship starts to feel like a job, like a liability, which is a big reason why we take ourselves away from the situation, because rather than it feeling fun, we're over-analysing every text, we're over-analysing every situation. It's taking up too much in our life for us to handle. And this is when our brain starts treating it like survival mode. We don't feel emotionally safe trying to build this connection. Instead, we're feeling emotionally threatened. Like, for example, if you're somebody who fears rejection, or you're somebody who is worried about getting hurt, you might start to feel really overly sensitive about these situations, like somebody doesn't text you back for a day, or so you went on a date with somebody and they've completely ghosted you. And this can quickly turn into us, checking our phones daily to see if they've texted, or thinking about them all day, worried about why they haven't texted you back, or why they gave you loads of attention yesterday and not today. And there's nothing wrong with that. You don't feel those emotions because you're crazy. It's usually revealing a deeper emotion about you. It's usually reflecting back to you that maybe you have a struggle when it comes to building self-confidence. Maybe you view yourself as somebody who doesn't deserve to be loved, or you fear being abandoned, or you've been hurt in the past so that you feel like they could hurt you again. And that's why your brain is treating it like survival, because you constantly think that next move you could get hurt or something bad could happen. So it's not just about trying to create a relationship or a connection with this person anymore. It's also you trying to protect you from being hurt, from being disappointed. And that can be draining. No matter who you're with, that can be draining, because we don't value ourselves like we should. We think those people that we're dating are more superior, like we don't deserve them. But we absolutely do, and because we're overthinking ourselves that much, and our values and our morals and who we are and how great we are, we're left drained in relationships when we feel disappointed, because as I said, we turn it into that personal story and blame ourselves for not being good enough. And this is amplified even more when it comes to talking about dating apps. The modern dating apps, they give us a sense of the fact that there might always be something better one swipe away. It's created that, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with dating apps at all, but it has created that sense of there are unlimited choices. So a disadvantage that this person might have, I bet if I swipe left, the next person will have something better. No one is perfect in this world. No one can have absolutely everything. When I first met my partner, we had some imperfections that we had to sort out ourselves. We didn't work the first time because we had to work on ourselves first, because we were not perfect. There are some things in a relationship that you're going to have to change. You might have to sacrifice. You might have to go, okay, they've got these absolutely amazing traits, which to me are the most important traits. A great future person, a great cares for me, is supportive, a great support. And maybe they've got this one thing here where, they have a habit of, chewing loud. I don't know. Or maybe they're not that 6'3" that you might want. Maybe they're 5'11". I don't know. There are some parts of dating in a relationship, when you get in a relationship, that you've got to understand that no one is perfect and you have to sacrifice a couple imperfections for your most important ideal partner traits right here. Now, one of the most misunderstood things in dating is the difference between consistent and inconsistent love. Now, what people don't realise is that consistent love creates that emotional peace, that emotional safety. And the inconsistent love can seem more rewarding, more exciting, and more of a adventure. So people chase that inconsistent love. They chase that, that feeling of, they're giving me loads of attention. Oh, now they're not. That emotional roller coaster they're going through to get that person. That emotional reward after it feels more exciting than it does when, you get that consistency, you get that affection, you get that loyalty when you're in a relationship or building into the dating scene. It's easy to look at this consistent love as a bit boring because we think, well, they're literally giving me all the attention right now. But over here, this person is not. And that's quite exciting because I could try and enjoy the race to get this person. But for me, when I think about it now, when I was single and I was dating these emotionally unavailable people, it was usually because I was lacking self-esteem and self-confidence inside of here. And I was always chasing that validation because I remember there was a time where I didn't feel good enough with who I was. So I always thought that, when somebody does choose me or when somebody does give me that little bit of attention, I would crave it and I would go chase it. And this is why I was ignoring red flags at the start of getting to know somebody or the start of dating somebody. Because the thought of, or option B, the thought of being alone, the thought of having to date again, the thought of having to maybe meet somebody and chase that validation, it was easier for me to stay in a scenario where I was dating somebody who wasn't giving me necessarily what I deserved because I was still getting that validation and I didn't feel alone. Right, so I was always coming up with kind of excuses when I wasn't getting what I deserved and putting it all on myself. Maybe I was being too much. And that would always reflect back to my self-worth and I'd be back in that emotional loop of chasing their validation to then feel better so then I can actually feel good about myself. And this is why healthy relationships can feel unfamiliar and in some ways wrong. Because we might not get that, fiery thing where your nervous system is going all the time and constantly working, constantly, that kind of excitement it gives you. I always think you should never trade a house for a hotel. And what I'm saying by that is a house can sometimes feel, you're used to a house. You're used to that's your place. And sometimes when you book a night for a hotel, you can go, oh my God, this is the most exciting thing ever. But if you traded that hotel for a house, you would miss your house so quickly. And that's what I mean when it comes to a relationship, is I don't ever want to trade my house, which is my relationship, which is that safety net, that comfort, that love and that house gives you, for a hotel which might seem more exciting at first. But as you go deeper, as you stay longer in that hotel, you miss that home, you miss that stability, you miss that comfort and that safety that love gives you. So now let's go over 5 things that really helped me when it came to feeling burned out and mentally exhausted in the dating scene, and helped me actually come back in a healthy, happy relationship a year later. The first one is rebuilding my self-worth outside of dating and relationships. For me personally, I had to take a massive step back when I was feeling burned out, when I was feeling exhausted, because the truth is, a lot of the problems that I was projecting onto other people were actually my problems, just for me personally. Like, I was feeling, I wasn't confident within myself, so I was always chasing that validation. I was ignoring those red flags because I'd rather put up with these red flags and be lonely. So for me, I had to take a bit of a step back to say I'm not going to date people for a while and just work on my self-worth. So I had to find a purpose outside of dating relationships to make myself feel validated. And a lot of the time, a great way of doing this is going back to your childhood. Think back to your childhood as to what brought that spark alive, what made you love life. Try and start doing some of those things. Start from there. For me, that was going outside, whether that's playing a sport, whether that's doing something adrenaline, whether that's building up your confidence at the gym, doing some sort of activity. The second is personal versus situational stories. Now, I stopped telling myself these personal stories. I literally made it a rule for myself to stop talking bad about myself and stop blaming myself for every situation that happens. So I'd always tell myself these personal stories that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't bringing enough to the table, that I could be better, that this person is better than me. Because a lot of life is not what actually happens to you, it's the story that you tell yourself. And when you're thinking emotionally, like I always was, you tell yourself these personal stories and you put yourself down. But what you need to do instead is you need to think situationally, think logically. What actually happened here? Maybe that relationship didn't work out because that person has just come out of a really toxic relationship. Maybe they're just not ready yet. Maybe they like you, but they just don't feel a connection. Just because it didn't work out does not mean it's anything wrong with you. Some people might just have different interests, might just have different types. That doesn't mean anything's bad with you, that's completely okay. Number 3, learn to regulate rather than react. Now, when it came to dating or situationships or anything like that, it can be so easy to get so drained that you react negatively to something that somebody might have done unintentionally. Now, what I mean by that is some people do genuinely have busy jobs. They don't always owe you something. When you're dating, they don't always owe you a reply straight away if they don't know you. That's completely okay. But I remember when this was happening, they wouldn't text for a morning or afternoon. I'd try and be a bit too clingy. I'd try and, because I was so worried about what they were thinking. I was so worried, telling my brain that, what if they don't like me, or what if they're not actually that interested, that I'd double text, I'd be clingy, I'd be too needy, right? So instead, I learned to regulate rather than react. You don't have to reply to that text straight away. You don't have to double text that person. If someone says something that you might feel frustrated about it, they don't want to see you anymore, you don't react to that. You don't say, oh, I didn't want to see you anyway. You just regulate yourself and respond accordingly. You just, okay, no problem, it was great to see you, take care. Number 4, slow down your emotional attachment. Now, I say this because when it comes to dating, if you can relate to this, then I'm glad I'm not alone here. I hope I'm not alone here. But basically, when you meet somebody or you talk to somebody for the first time, you would create these scenarios in your head where you get emotionally involved very quickly. You might, match with somebody, you might have a good conversation with somebody, you might have a good first date with somebody, and then you start creating these emotional stories in your head. You start getting emotionally attached quickly. You start thinking, oh, would they be good for this? Or, in the future, they'd be really good here. You start picturing like the future, and you start picturing what life could be. And a lot of the time, this creates this perfect idea of somebody who might not actually be that perfect person. Because in your head, you've already thought about the fact that they are this perfect person. So sometimes you fall in love with the potential of somebody instead of who they actually are right in front of you. What the person is saying, what affection they're giving you, whether they're being consistent, whether it's healthy or not. Number 5, pick genuine compatibility over emotional dependency. Do you actually like that person? Are you genuinely compatible with that person? Or do you just like the feeling they give you? Have a little think about that, because I was always throwing myself in situations that would make me feel validated, that would make me feel good enough, instead of situations where I was genuinely exploring this connection with somebody because I was genuinely compatible with them. Deep down, you kind of know that they're not the right person and they're not giving you what you deserve. You stay because they give you those feelings that you haven't found within yourself yet. Take care. Thank you very much.